Proceed with the countdown.
10,
9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
0.
Ready? All right.
I mean, this is going to make E.T. look like Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they are. Okay. Hey. You ever play with one of these?
What is Pops doing?
Caution everyone to watch out for pies.
At this point, anything is possible, so yes, pies, seltzer bottles, balloon animals, be alert.
Our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Subverting expectations.
It's just clearly fan fiction.
But Loki, it wouldn't have been as exciting for the audience.
Boy, do I have a surprise for you.
Stone Cold Loki! The incredible Ironcaster!
Trust no one.
Pops!
The summer of 1982 will bring another thing from another world to Earth.
I thought when they offered me the remake of The Thing, rather than remaking the original film, I thought I'd go back to the short story.
The movie is being made on location in Alaska and British Columbia, in addition to the sound stages at Universal.
We've got one great monster.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Be good to Universal. Hopefully, they'll be good back to me. So, yes, the non-copyright flagged version so far, so good. And I put the stinger on a rather long intro, but you know what, folks? This movie deserves as much time as we can give it and as much attention as we can give it. Happy birthday, 40th anniversary of The Thing. And with me to spend some time discussing this amazing film is Stone Loki. How are you, my brother?
Doing great, Pops. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm blessed. Better than I should, for certain. So, Ironcaster, my buddy, how are you doing?
Well, I'm feeling a little suspicious of everyone right now.
Hey, it's probably right that you are. I would say that there could not be a better movie that would raise suspicions of your fellow man. Yeah. And rewatching this film, it just, woo. Yeah, so while I'm loading the film in the background here, who wants to talk about, do you remember when you first saw this film? Because I'm pretty hazy on seeing it. I don't quite know exactly. I didn't see it in the theater. I would have probably been early teens. So it came out when I was 11. So I would have come out, I probably was like early high school. So late, I don't know, 8th grade, maybe 9th grade or so. Probably is when I saw it for the first time.
It was years after it came out. I know that for me anyway. I remember my dad watching it on TV, and that's how I saw it for the first time. I was probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, you saw that. You said that on your show really young, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. No judgment. Just it is what it is. So cool. Ironcaster?
I think for me, if I remember right, the first time I saw The Thing was probably mid 2000s. I was kind of going back to the. This was around the time I had just discovered that the library could check out movies. So I would go in there and I would, check out a lot of like Stargate, and I'd kind of go check out a bunch of the movies that I was always like heard of, and I was like, I didn't know how to find them otherwise. And one weekend I had done a double feature of The Thing and The Fly.
Ooh, that's good.
All kinds of body horror that weekend.
The Jeff Goldblum Fly?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, that's another shockingly good film. So, this is great. Basically, I kind of reached out, and Universal didn't really give me any negative response. I kind of ran it through the YouTube filter for a copyright check and didn't have any issues. So, pulled a couple snippets from their trailer footage, pulled a couple snippets from one of their multiple documentaries and things that have been done on this amazing film. So, it's great. It's a great examination. And Rob Bottin's practical effects, oh my gosh, some of these things are just freaking amazing. So amazing. So anyway, let's say hail to the chat. Everyone out there, you guys make this happen. We can't thank you enough for even being with us again for another great edition of Talk Hard. We just tell you like it is. Speak from our hearts. Ryan, brother, happy birthday. Ryan Roger F.A. How are you, my brother? Chris Persia, our wrench, our mod, thank you so much for being the greatest Pops mod someone could ask for. Appreciate it very much, my friend. I saw Pacific 414 coming in here, Mike. Thank you, bro. Thanks for hanging out with us and spending time. Let's see here. Awesome One. How are things going? I'm great. Thanks for asking Awesome One. He's the giver of nicknames in my way. Let's see. And then, Awesome One says, make sure you're sitting by the fire, Ironcaster. Awesome One also said he saw it first on an HBO free weekend. Yeah, wasn't that the thing back in the day? Ooh, gotta love HBO free weekends. Stephen Ransom. Oh, he's a boss. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. I got something to share. He put together something for me. Just so freaking awesome. It's just incredible. I don't even say it's been so cool. So let me pull that up later in the show. But yeah, let's get to it. Let's do a little bit of. I'm going to try to hit some high points, and just so we can have an opportunity to kind of like really kind of share, more like dive deeps into certain things you guys want to really touch on. So, again, just a lot of praise for a great script. This film, there's a lot that happens in short chunks of time. I know people talk about the slow build-up, the slow methodical build-up, where the wolf's running through the snow, being chased by a helicopter, and a guy hanging over the edge taking shots at it. You don't really have a clue to what's going on. And of course,
one of the things I really enjoy at the very start of the movie, it's just the theme.
Oh yeah, musical score. Yeah, Carpenter had a wonderful way of doing that in every single movie because it was all his music.
Well, this is one of the few films that he didn't actually do the score on. This is how do you say his name? Ennio Morricone. He did Good, Bad, and the Ugly. He actually some of the score from this that was not published is what he used to piece together Hateful Eight, which he won an award for. Yeah. This is one of the few that Carpenter. Now, Carpenter, of course, directed very specific to what he was looking for. Yeah, Ennio Morricone, I think is how you would say his name. He's Italian, famous composer, and brilliant man. Oh my gosh, just his legend resume of work. I mean, just incredible. So, yeah, he actually did this. This is one of the few. Carpenter, of course, likes to have control of his music and those kinds of things. And yeah. I have hit something. What on earth is? Okay, there it goes. My tab disappeared for a minute. I'm like, what's going on? So, all right, cool. All right, let's get rid of this. And then,
like I was saying, I really like just that simple theme. The doom doom.
Yeah.
Doom doom. With this, it's like as you go on, it's like a bit of a heartbeat kind of going on. It's this pulse that's building the tension. It sets the mood.
We didn't really touch on it briefly. I want to give if you YouTube, you can just YouTube stuff on Thing, and I got to rewatch because I remember seeing this special feature, and I don't know where they talk a little bit about making the credits, making the logo, making the spaceship. These kinds of things are out there. So really, really interesting. Kind of the thoughtfulness that went behind elements of this film that are so taken for granted today. Just brilliant. Anyway, long and short of that scene is helicopter lands, still taking shots at the wolf. Tries to throw a grenade. Grenade falls out of the one guy's hand, blows himself up, and then the helicopter goes up. The rifleman hits one of the Americans here at this Antarctica base, so they open fire back, kill him. So the wolf is now basically allowed in the base, and then we cut to our protagonist, which is Kurt Russell. McCready's playing chess against a computer. And the critics hated this film. I know we'll kind of touch on that repeatedly through the film. One of the things they talk a lot about was hating on the gratuitous use of blood and gore, and the fact that it basically could be a Jim Beam ad. And that was basically a lot of their critiques. They didn't have very kind words for this film at the time. So I don't know. I don't remember. Look, you did your host show on this, and I made a comment it just really came out when the box office was just overly congested with just classic films and stuff. So it was really kind of squeezed out.
And it got drowned out, like you said, it got drowned out by the critics. One of the comments they said was you cannot tell one person from the other in this movie, that they all blend together. I don't see how they got to that conclusion. To me, that does not make any sense whatsoever. They said that the story was flat, that the monster was formless. You could not identify the monster because it was formless, almost like it was a shapeshifter. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point, is that you don't know who the hell is the thing and who's not. That's part of the really freaky part about it. It's amazing. And some of these people you will recognize the name of, like Ebert from Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah, bash the film.
They all bash the film, and Carpenter would not talk about this movie for a long time because he was so upset that it got the hate. And this is his favorite movie. This is his favorite movie, the best one he ever worked on, he felt, and they bashed it to hell.
Well, I mean, do you think that the fact that E.T. wound up coming out like a week or two before The Thing had any influence on that?
Sort of. I think that this was they liken their hate when you read the reviews, because I Googled a lot of reviews. I wanted to see what some of them actually said. There's a lot of bashing of the film in comparison to like Alien, which is ironic because Carpenter says when he was making the film, he said he agreed to do it on two things. And that was, one, the alien couldn't be a guy in a suit. That basically, at the end of the day, as much as he loved the Alien film, it was still just a guy in a suit. He did not want a guy in a suit. The second thing was with the creation of the creature, as Loki was saying with the shape-shifting, he said it only wants to take on the characteristics of what it's in that moment. It's not going to retain any of those characteristics. So if it switches bodies, it will take on the characteristics of the new body, not retaining any of the elements from the old. And that was the crux of how they're going to move the story through. Otherwise, you would just easily be able to figure out which person it is. So that was how they kind of got you through till the end.
You know, one of the things I think that really helps, though, is with the size of the cast. We're talking roughly 10 people. There's just enough people there that at times you can kind of lose track of who's where and who might be the Thing.
A little bit. I think that it is when the chaos breaks out and they all start splitting up into twos and threes, and you already have a couple people dead or whatever, it does get a little bit confusing, like which one is Windows and where did he go and where. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, Daryl popped in. Soul Assassin is here. The Soul Assassin is also saying the original Thing creator hated on the film, I hear. Yes. So the original 1951, is that correct, Loki? 51?
Yes.
James Arness plays basically a vegetable, 8-foot vegetable thing, basically. And that the creator did not like this version at all. And I'm like, I don't know
Frankenstein.
Why, yeah.
He was like a Frankenstein monster, but they said he was a vegetable. So
yep. And Gray from Wakasashi Tea House. Hey, man. Awesome. One of the best movies from the 80s. Absolutely. And listen, just for any of these who want to check back, if you happen to be up early, and if not, catch it on the replay. Gray and I will be up at 6 a.m. Eastern time for our show tomorrow morning. I get to catch up with a guy in Japan. So listen, it's a time thing. What do you want to say? Talking comic books. We're going to talk about some of the different avenues from a reading perspective, collecting perspective, and an investing perspective. So, and by the way, I held the shot just for a little bit longer, only because this computer, he's playing chess. The female voice is the only female in representation in this film. The female voice on the computer. Just a bit of trivia from the nonsense that comes out of my head sometimes. Let's see. So anyway, that kind of I love these shots because they built this. The set was built on a glacier. Just really got lucky with the timing of it all. Really got lucky with the blizzards that had come in and really gave them a lot of free snow. They didn't have to spend a lot of their limited budget on any of that. So that was really cool. Obviously, they filmed on locations, from British Columbia. It's incredible. Look, we don't do this stuff anymore. I loved it. I love all of these shots. I know. You get a lot of character information, things like that. And I can say this for the critics, because obviously in these first few scenes, I can agree with their assessment. It's a little hard to keep track of who's who. You don't know yet. But as the film goes on, I'm with Loki. They all have very unique personalities, once they're infected or not, how they die. I mean, it's very, it really, really clears itself up. Plus, some of these people are actually like known actors. Like some of these people are not no names. You know what I mean?
It's got Wilford Brimley in it.
Wilford Brimley was actually a big name at the time. This is Windows, ranting and raving about communication. It's funny how there's like, we don't get ourselves hung up with it, but he's a character that represents the voice of, by the way, there's no way we can't go anywhere. We're not going to escape. No one from the outside is going to come help us. That's literally one of the main elements to this. He's a neurotic character, and then he's just that voice that the audience would have. Well, can't they call for help? Well, he's always constantly reminding the audience, no, you can't do that. It happens like 2 or 3 times in the script. So we fast forward a little bit. The wolf is there. The wolf is sort of integrated into everything. Just these great characters are just all these characters are very unique. It moves along very quickly into what has happened. They decided to go check out the Norwegian base. So the guy that was in the helicopter that was shooting at the wolves, it's the Norwegian explorers. The only way to get there is through copter, but they got to go through some storm. So they organized McCready and one other guy to go over there, scientists, and this is them patrolling the Norwegian. Now, this is actually a set shot of the Universal lot, and I think you guys can verify, right? They refrigerated all of this. This is actually a set, but they refrigerated all of this, so it would definitely be a lot more real.
And this is supposed to be based. This base that they're on is supposed to be based on the black and white movie version that you got back in the 50s. They even show a video clip. One of the things they get from this base is a video clip of them standing on the ice in a circle with their arms out, and that's exactly what they did in the original movie. So Carpenter does pay homage to the original film, and them standing out above the flying saucer with their arms out. I always thought that was a little neat, was a little callback to the black and white version.
Yeah, and I want to, hopefully we can get on that shot. I use my digital copy whenever we do these shows. It's a little tricky sometimes to hit all of the stuff. I love the fact that again, Ironcaster, you and I almost we beat this drum repeatedly. The amount of set design and attention to detail in these shots is just shocking. It is literally just shocking how much stuff is in these backgrounds and these scenes. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Like when they're in their rec room, you're looking at all the little board games and the puzzles, and you're seeing all the little things they would do to have to try to pass the time, and it definitely feels like it is a lived-in environment.
Yep, I agree. I understand. And this is a shot. We're going to pause for a minute on this because this is the autopsy on the humanoid corpse that they found at the Norwegian thing. They bring it back, and the doctors perform an autopsy. Now, Loki, you've talked about this too. Rob Bottin wanted to actually use animal organs for these shots.
He wanted to use real animal organs for the shots, yes.
I don't know if it was rehearsal or actually like a first day of shooting, but they left an organ on set by accident and it smelled up the joint. And that was the end of his grand experiment. They shut him down after that. It's probably during rehearsals. They actually did a 2-week rehearsal for this film. Carpenter wanted to be uber prepared before they went out into the snow to do all of this. And at the time, 2 weeks rehearsal was kind of a lot. So it probably was rehearsal. But yeah, that was the plan. They would use some. I don't know the terms. I know what a haggis is, like a goat's stomach. It wasn't called a haggis. It's something else. It started with an O, like an ofla, something like that. I don't know what that is. If you guys in the chat will know, some of you guys will know what piece of goat or cow or something that is. So
I believe it's pronounced awful.
Awful?
Yep,
it is awful. Okay. So yeah, that's the organ scenes. He wanted real stuff here. You move quickly into like, what is this we're dealing with? Nobody knows. And this is what you're saying, Ironcast. Look at these shots where posters on the wall, lamps, pinball machines. I mean, it's, people are in Antarctica for months and months and months and isolated. You would have to have all of these different things to not have cabin fever. So it was just so brilliant. Yeah, it's so freaking great to put. There's a whole bar back here, guys. Look at this studio. Bar stools with a bar with a neon light. I mean, running a lot of juice on their generators, but that's just me. Okay.
Yeah. Playing old tapes.
Yeah, just so much. So this is where we start to get into. So this is the infected wolf. He's getting put in with all the others there on the base, and this is the first scene. Richard Mazur plays the sort of dog handler. I believe his character name is Clark. I don't have it pulled up. And this is where the wolf transforms, and you start to get into the amalgam of using robotics and puppetry, and just freaking great. And just like, what the heck are we seeing and watching here? I loved it. I love the fact that they started with a non-human transformation first. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, I think it's a great like opening scene just to show what the thing is capable of here, to show someone who has no idea about what to expect out of this film, and then suddenly man's best friend. People love animals. Now you suddenly have the dog being the monster and turning into such an inhuman thing that it's gonna have just about anyone probably look at their pet twice.
Oh yeah, this was something.
Little pause.
Stephen Ransom says it blows my mind the critics bash this so hard. Just Google them up, man. Just Google a few. I think even if you go to like mainstream sites, I don't know about Tomatoes. I hate freaking. I even tried to register today again. Looking back to I'm never going to be on Rotten Tomatoes, man. I'm never going through that much red tape for anybody. But IMDb maybe has them, but you can find like mainstream retro reviews. They're out there. Loki. You tell us if you were the thing, right? Right?
No. Mm-mm.
There's no way Loki would tell us. You guys are completely... There's no way. No. Thing could be a female. No, we don't want to talk about his gender. The Thing is the original genderless, gender neutral. The idea of an unidentifiable monster as a trope of Cold War terror. Twilight Zone did all of this at the time. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is great. We should definitely put that on our radar screen at some point. Yeah,
I think it ultimately it's not just the Cold War, but it gets back to one of the oldest fears of humanity: the fear of the unknown, fear of the other.
Yeah, and that's where the Cold War stuff comes into play, right? Because the Soviets are among us, the Reds were among us. That was really kind of what was legitimately happening in society and culture. So, and yeah, Chris, I refuse to use his pronouns. I don't care what they are. Apollo's Minion stopping in. Thanks. Nice to see you, lady. Thanks for hopping in and hanging with us. The Thing prequel, I wasn't really going to speak on that. I used footage and Kurt Russell's height to remake the Norwegian base as accurate as possible. All right, well, fair enough. I actually haven't seen it. I've tried to watch it and couldn't get into it. I kind of did what you guys were talking about, like a free HBO thing or something like that. So, Opa, is that it? Opa? Is that the goat kidney, liver or something? I don't know what it is, but that's what they left it on set, smelled up the place. That's what I read. Bad movie. That must be the prequel that he's talking about. The 2011. Is that when it came out? Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan is also It's a variety of meats, pluck organ meats, organs of the butchered animals. Can you imagine though in today's society, even like coming on set and having like real organs? These people would freak out, man. They would freak out.
There's also a new movie that is being worked on by Universal and Blumhouse. So,
you mean the movie I just reviewed?
What?
The movie I just reviewed, or some other movie? What are you talking about?
No. There's a new movie. And I think it was in either last year or the year before. It was announced that Blumhouse Productions is working on the new Thing movie that is based on the Frozen Hell screenplay that was written.
Right now, man, I couldn't be a bigger fan of what the Blumhouse people are doing. I got to be honest. They're like, even when they're missing, why is it not pausing? Okay, there we go. Their misses still put us in a place that's better than most of the other stuff, right? I mean, I can easily critique even Invisible Man, which should be called Invisible Woman. I had a fun time. It's an okay film. You know, it's woke and intersexual feminist, but it's also not terrible and demeaning of other men compared to other films. Like, even when they miss a little bit or they're whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
you know, I hear that, and all I'm reminded is I have a list of mile-long movies I still have not seen that I could go watch instead.
Yeah, that's why it's just constantly just keep searching out something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a list of stuff I feel doesn't have those compromises that are just overwhelming all of cinema today. So, yeah, I think I'll be not watching that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't prioritize it, that's for sure. But it's not the worst thing in the world. So, this is just them reaction to the wolf transformation. They don't know what they're dealing with. They're totally freaking out. They're trying to figure out how to get one of the flamethrowers. This is them doing an autopsy on it. Literally like breaking crab legs, crunchy. I love that stuff.
And it's like watching it. I think everyone there should be looking suspicious. Like, why would you? Does anyone want to touch this thing? It's like for the audience, even you're left watching it and like freaking out. Like, oh, is this going to attack them while they do the autopsy? Is this thing truly dead?
It's funny you say that because like when I rewatched it, I watched it again yesterday, and I think there's a couple shots they don't even have gloves on and stuff. And obviously, if you find out that it can easily infect someone it's had contact with, why the doctor wouldn't be one of the first people you would isolate, because he's obviously been with this thing for days before, or at least hours, if not a day, before the first person. But I got to be honest, in the 70s and 80s, we're like, yeah, whatever. No one cared. We used to not have to wear, they call it personal protective equipment. We didn't have to wear masks and gloves and stuff the way we do now. Like, it's so much more intense now than it used to be. So I will say that I'm sorry, I meant that. Let's go back to that shot if I can get it to come back up again. The pod, see how it looks very wet. That's a big Rob Bottin signature move right there. Loves moisture on stuff. Makes it feel more fleshy and alive compared to a lot of like dry, rubbery prosthetics and things like that. It's like you can tell sometimes. So this is the video. I want to try if I can get the video to come up. They're watching the TV. This is some of the stuff that the Norwegians, the footage that Loki was talking about earlier. They're trying to piece some of this stuff together, and they really tried to put in footage and try to tie itself to the original film, which I thought was great.
Yep, because that's the thermite explosion. The circle, them in the circle was a little bit before that, if that's what you were looking for.
I was trying, but it keeps hopping. So yeah, they're digging and then they're doing these shots.
They're going to plant thermite bombs, and they end up blowing up the ship when they do that. But then they find the alien. So they find the thing in ice. Of course, that following all that following the 1951 movie.
It's funny listening to the guy who did the effects for the matte painting. So they would have the guy stand in the semicircle, and then how to do that matte painting for that. And I think he's German. He's really, really, really renowned in that technology in that field. So it's just really fascinating how much detail and stuff is put in these things. Whereas now they would just They would just CGI all this in, wouldn't have any sort of real feel or groundedness to it at all. And meanwhile, all this stuff, this is where they go to see the actual ship, and they I think they said they helicoptered in the top part, and then there's matte painting stuff to make some of the other, and they film them coming over the edge, and then the rest is matte. But looks so good. Looks so good.
And the colors look so good too. You get a couple different shades of blue with the whites in there. It is some good, color selection with the environments.
Yeah, Mother Nature really blessed this film. I tell you what, right now it's beautiful. So we kind of cut back on set. We start getting some of the interpersonal stuff happening. The doctor is done his research, and he basically gives this to the audience. So basically, if we have the intruder infect a person, and then that person's basically taken over by the host, this one. So it was really, really an interesting thing to use graphics. And obviously this comes out just weeks before Tron, and we talked a little bit about Wrath of Khan before, where some of the stuff's happening, and he's piecing all this together and basically pulls out his revolver because he's starting to figure out there's no way we're going to be in the same place as the Norwegians were. It's going to consume us all.
Nobody.
Ryan says the Reds are still among us. Have you all played the Thing video game? I have not played the video game. Carpenter said back then it was an official sequel to the film. Oh, fascinating.
You actually find the remains of MacReady and God, I can't remember his name right now. Yes, at the end of the movie.
Okay.
You actually find MacReady. So Carpenter said this was a direct continuation from his movie. Child's body you don't find, and that's because his body had the thing in it. But you find MacReady, and MacReady's dead body's there along with all his logs. So you hear when he's talking in the tape recorder, you hear all those logs. But yeah, Child's body is nowhere to be found, and that's because Child's
Child was infected. Yeah. So yeah, the film kind of progresses. You start to get into, well, what are we going to do with the dead body? The little, the corpse that we did the autopsy on. He goes over. Now this is Ironcaster, where I kind of agree more with what you were saying earlier. You'd want to do this. You want to take a look. You want to be this close to this thing and whatever. Well, pun not intended, actually. And then, of course, we're going to have our red blood goo or our red dyed KWell buckets of stuff pouring out of this thing before it attacks him.
It's so funny trying to talk about the movie, and then we keep calling it The Thing, and it's really on the nose.
It's a little on point, isn't it? So this is where Fuchs is trying to figure out, okay, wait a minute, this is kind of a mess, and trying to convince, because everyone really kind of picks up on the fact that MacReady is the one who's really kind of trustworthy and has good intentions and all of that. But things are definitely going to spiral out of control very quickly when they start to realize that it's infected. It attacks. I went past it. I got a stupid freaking 45-59. 45-59. Oh my gosh. Here we go. There we go. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I should take my controls away. Is what I should do. Let someone else drive. Because some days it's now it's moving without me doing it. I ended up on some sort of drag drop thing. It didn't want to go with me, right? So I'm just boomering away. The old guy that I am. And we missed the scene. This is not what I want. I wanted to go back to the scene where he's getting attacked. They keep changing the timestamp. There we go. So we're getting closer. You guys got to keep dialoguing while I try to sort out how to get to a clip that actually matters. I love that.
Oh no, it's still alive.
And the blanket. the blanket over it. That was a big thing in the original black and white. Was they used a blanket, like a heated blanket that got put over it and accidentally de-thawed it.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of ties to this film.
And Carpenter loved the original black and white movie. That was the reason why he wanted to do this so bad and bring it more in line with the book, because the book is a shapeshifter. It takes over people, it becomes people. And that was not the way it was in the original black and white movie. So Carpenter wanted it to be more authentic and more true to the book, while still having that same feel that the movie had.
Yeah, I mean, it really is very clear this was definitely a project, a passion project for him. He really, really went back to the original source material and really wanted to transform it. And you just have these great sort of reactions to what are we seeing? How is this happening? They're not dead. We have to burn them all. It's only the only thing we can think of to try to kill these things, to kill the bodies that have been infected. And that's kind of how it transpires here as we start to move through. Basically, this is again where the critics don't make any sense to me. Like, you can't keep track of who's who and what's what when they all just how they react would make a lot of difference, let alone not being able to tell them all apart and stuff like that. It makes no sense to me. It does get a little difficult to start to keep track. If you haven't figured out, he is the doctor, he is Blair, he's in the little cabin by himself. We're gonna lock him up, and so if you don't start figuring out like the who's where they are, I guess you can let yourself get lost. But I love these shots in the snow,
and I think to a degree that does help the game or help the show even or the movie really work even better when you start to kind of lose track. They put you in that position to where now you're questioning everyone.
Yeah.
And even when they were in the cabin with him, he may not be one of them yet, but that does not mean he is not infected and going to become one of them yet. Because as it shows later in the movie, it doesn't have to attack you. It doesn't have to come into a room and get you. If you've got one blood cell, one cell from that thing that gets in you, you will start to change and transform in the inside first. Especially like when the doctor's trying to save him later in the movie and his hands go through him. The thing never ever attacked him. It never ever replaced him. It was something that was happening gradually inside him.
Right. It's going to be a slower transformation process from the inside out. Awesome One says the scientists have a terrible understanding of microbiology. Somehow I got hashtag pop matters. I'm not quite sure. Boomer pops. I'm boomer popping. Yeah, that's about right. And a prequel to the Division game. Don't know there.
And if the critics didn't get that, I don't see how they couldn't get that when they show you that computer simulation of the blood cells being taken over. It is very simple to say, okay, all it takes is one cell, one little tiny microscopic cell from this thing, and you're infected. That's all it takes.
Yep. This is where you start to get into the confirmation scene. I love this scene. Go ahead.
I mean, considering you see them like either blasting people apart or getting shredded when these things shift and mold. At one point, it's spraying mucus it's spraying like acid or mucus oil over the dogs. You got to figure there is so much of this place that's covered in its genetics that can possibly infect and take people over.
Yeah, there would not really be a lot of safe places to be. It can be in anyone, so you could be around anyone. This is where we start doing his audio recordings. We start coming up with his blood test schemes and those kinds of things. Anyway, this is Fuchs trying to figure things out for himself, and they start to get into, oh wait, MacReady could be, because here's his torn pants or shirt, and it has his name on it. So he could have been transformed. So that's kind of where that ended up. They start splitting up to go check on the doctor. He's still inside. He's like, no, you guys are crazy. This is what we're gonna do. Let's see here.
Yeah, no, I think that was brilliant to even go and put in the doubt of Kurt Russell. It's like the guy is I would say is arguably the start of the film, and you're left even questioning whether or not he's safe.
Right, and this is them debating whether they're going to allow him back in or not. And it's funny because McCready's just so smart. He's like, I found another way in. He got dynamite. He's holding a flare. Meanwhile, this guy's crashing. He's just passing out, just crashing.
And you saw like
what's happening to Norris?
And you saw like a little tease where he doubles over and he's holding his stomach. And that's exactly where the doctor's gonna, like, when he puts his hands down on him, that's where like his whole chest is gonna open up and eat the doctor's hands. They do give you a little tease of that before this happens, when he grabs his stomach and he's like, oh, what the hell? And he's looking out the window at McCready's. He knew. Carpenter knew every little piece of this puzzle. He knew to throw you little morsels and little tidbits and little, what's happening here? And a build of the suspense, a buildup of everything. How you can say this movie is crap, I don't know.
Look at the makeup on Kurt Russell. You just feel like he was left in the snow too long. Like, he just seems so believable.
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty indeed. Redefining Stay Frosty.
And I think right here is the hint to the audience to point out that McCready is at least safe. That feels like the guarantee here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they give you a little bit of doubt one other time, or at least they try to. But yeah, this is obviously the pinnacle scene, the most. Oh man, I don't even know what to say, how to put it into words, how great this scene is.
His fingers are in his mouth.
Oh yeah, infected, right? I mean, you don't know. It's just Let's see. He's got his little scheme. He's got his little plan. They're working on Norris. Let's see. I would say that the Norris scene is even crazier to think about when you realize that they use an actual an amputee, like a double amputee, to pull this scene off. Like there. Like, this is just crazy. So they have the mechanical stomach. And then he comes back out and they switch it. So this is happening. So there's your double amputee with like the whole jello vein prosthetic things on, with like a face covering of the original actor. That is just some brilliant stuff. Now
the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of special effects.
I don't know why it will not pause. It just keeps playing and playing and playing. So I'm going to definitely get flagged now. It definitely went on for like way too long. This was the scene. And hearing them talk about this scene is really, really fascinating. So if you haven't heard, the poor actor laying there, they do the first shot. And when his stomach opens like this, it just goes off like a fountain. The strings and stuff don't go flying everywhere. Just kind of just shoot stuff. And they just yell cut. They're like, well, that was awful. And they're like, okay. And he's like, well, we'll just have to reset it. He's like, okay, well, you're going to have to give us a minute. So they have to basically, they got to clean up the actor. They got to take this whole mechanism apart. They got to clean all this stuff up to do take two. This poor actor's just stuck there in this table. So it's his head and his shoulders and his upper body on that shot. And then, of course, he's in the table. And that's where this big, giant mechanical, basically like a giant Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors is like, and then, of course, the WMPT scene. Oh, I love this scene. How freaked out were you guys on a scale?
The first time I saw it?
Yeah, I'm freaked out.
Oh, it scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I was freaked out.
I was watching it just today, and I'm seeing him getting ready to use the defibrillators for the first of like the 2 or 3 times he does it, and I'm in my room here screaming, no!
Yeah,
like I know what's gonna come. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah. This scene is just, and then just the crazy head thing and just all of it. It's just so good. Like it's just this mechanism and everything that's happening, and you're like, what am I looking at? What is going on? And yeah, he just keeps moving. And this scene, the way they I don't know, they use these mechanics to stretch the head and have all this stuff happening, and it's just so good.
And back then, you really got a guy shooting a flamethrower at the damn thing.
Yep, this is shot right here. Yeah, freaking great that looks. All this stuff popping and breaking. Rob Bottin talks about how they would use real food. So he talks a lot about cream corn, and they actually used eggs and things like that. He goes, and he literally says it. He's actually bashing CGI. He doesn't realize it. He basically says, well, that's why it looks so real. Because it may not be what you think it is. It's disguised to look like blood and guts and tendons and ligaments, and yes, but it's real stuff. It's tangible. So our brains can handle that so much better than this computer generated nonsense. And then let's see where we get to.
And you're also really reacting to something. You're not reacting to, hey, there's an alien crawling around the floor over here. Act like you're scared. You see that shit and you react to it.
Yep. So I love the fact that this scene, it starts transforming out of the head, and they're not noticing it yet. Like it just sort of keeps going with the scene. Like the actors are doing their thing, dealing with this burnt corpse mess that they got going on here. When this happens,
yeah, it's still like making noise.
It just sort of kind of makes noise, but they're not really paying attention to it because of all the chaos. And Kurt Russell is I think he's quoted several times of saying this too with this shot. So when this thing comes out and starts crawling, the guy goes like, you're effing kidding. And Kurt Russell says, to this day, I still laugh out loud at that line. And I'm like, that makes me happy on the inside. You've hit the home run as a filmmaker, as a writer, if they're still laughing. You know what I mean? 40 years later, your star is still laughing at the right places with this shot and this scene. The other thing was, I think they said they didn't want the creature to really look like something tangible. Like, so for instance, the head didn't just become a spider, and it was like the head was upside down, right? They wanted everything to be just a little off kilter, a little, with the facial features, they're always stretched to a side, they're elongated, things like that. So you're always it's all warped, it's all being manipulated. So your reaction is even more extreme. All right, I'll move a little faster going through the blood test stuff because we end up with more reveals. We're constantly eliminating people where the solution is put some of your blood in the Petri dish, and then we'll torture it.
Which, if you notice, with the way, not Childs, the one collecting the blood, when he does it, you see him covering it up with his thumb. So in theory, that could be used to even try to throw off the accusation onto someone else.
Yeah, I will agree that when I saw this, I forget when I first watched it, I don't know, like a week and a half or so ago, I watched it, and during that viewing, I kind of lost track if this was the scene with Windows. I'm like, is he faking right there or not? I couldn't. It's like I just for a minute had to get it right in my head. Like I couldn't quite keep track of it all and that kind of thing.
They all use the same knife too.
Yeah, they're all infected. They all could be infected. Yeah. There's an easy way to break it all down and stuff like that. Keith David though is great. Keith David is a very underrated actor. He plays the Franks and Beans guy's dad in Something About Mary.
Yes, he does.
That guy.
It's a bit of a shame he didn't get more scenes in this film.
Yeah, and I love this, right? They put the rod in there, so basically the premise is any part of the cellular structure of the thing is in threat, then it can't help but react. Like a man can cut themselves, you're like, oh crap, I'm cut, I'm bleeding, or whatever, but you don't freak out per se if it's a small enough injury. The thing is incapable of doing that. So it's just kind of they set the parameters up. I know somebody joked about the microbiology elements of it all. I think Loki's observation is more relevant. Like if everyone's used the same knife, then everyone's likely to be contaminated. But anyway, so let's check in. Yeah, Daryl's quoting it. That's I don't think he says you gotta be. I think it's just more like gotta be. It's just it's freaking great though. the list of 80s anime that took inspiration from this scene, amazing scene. Yeah, I mean, it inspired so much stuff. Practical effects over CGI, couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Kubrick would have hated CGI. Absolutely agree with that assessment. So yeah, this is where things start to go quickly, because now you're starting to figure out, let's do process elimination, who is infected, who is not, what to do. He has trouble igniting the flamethrower as this transformation happens. And of course, he's just, I mean, just like talking like face melting technology, face melting stuff like from Raiders. And then of course it jumps in front and just attacks Windows. Now, Windows is dead. So Windows gets it. Yeah, it's freaking great, man. It's just nuts. And then you start going outside. It starts setting up more fires. You start seeing more of the chaos breaks out. Then you kind of get to the last act of the film, which is about trying to come up with a plan of survival. A few more people have to be tested. Go ahead.
The scene where the man comes out of the building on fire, that again is a callback to the 1952 or 51 movie, because they actually set it on fire in the barracks, and it goes out like that on fire and ditches into the snow. Right. Again, Carpenter is using everything he can to do a callback without copying the original movie. But he does an absolutely wonderful job of getting that scene, which you see in 51, of the man on fire going outside and basically dousing himself in the snow.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that did bother me though was in doing the blood test, Kurt Russell's holding the little petri dishes in his hand as he's getting ready to test it.
Yeah, because when the one reacts, he throws it down. Like, it freaks him out. Right.
Like, can we not keep that like feet from my face? I don't need any bit of this getting on me.
I thought you were going to react more to this scene, like he would be setting the room on fire by being this on fire. But okay. And he just bursts through the wall. He just literally bursts through the wall. So if there's anything that's cheesy in the film, that actually is probably one of the cheesier aspects of the film. Is the guy on fire just runs through a wall. Yeah. Anyway, that notwithstanding, still good stuff. So he's just trying to Cap's trying to say, listen, I'm not infected. Get me out of this freaking couch. I'm obviously not one of the creatures. Then there's like this split up scheme to check on Blair, because we left him out there to his own devices. And when they go to check, which is what they're doing, he's gone. Blair's missing. So now chaos ensues. And basically the last act of the film is trying to figure out like what's going on. They find out
this I loved.
This is brilliant. So basically, this is basically Blair's secret lair, rhyming intentional. The Blair lair, and he's basically building a little spacecraft out of all of the mechanical pieces he's been tearing off of all of their equipment as he's been dismantling things, building the thing. So basically, the thing is trying to use this as a way to travel or survive. So now they realize there's really not. What are we going to do? You know, we got to come up with a situation. So they realize they're just going to have to destroy the base, you know, track down Blair. These kinds of things is what the final act basically is. And gradually, it just keeps turning left and left. There's no way you're against the elements. You're against the monster. You're against each other because you're still bickering and fighting, dealing with like the most incompetent people in the face of fear. Like if you're holding this thing of dynamite, that's all well and good. When you're scared out of your freaking mind, you drop dynamite, everyone can die. So that's how some of these explosions go off. They go off haphazard. So this last act of the movie is just really just full of just a lot of crazy stuff. The practical effects are just brilliant, great. Love it all. Love all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the big climax. It's so intense.
And he's seeing these shots. Look at how great these studios. They did so much work to make all this look so good. They have it all cold, so it looks so real.
I get little flashbacks in imagery comes to mind from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, with the way some of the more fantastical looking sets in that.
Again, this is that era.
The boiler room.
Yeah, the boiler room stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's just it. It's just there's so much attention to detail trying to immerse you. Like we spent, 9 episodes bashing Halo. And part of my biggest critique was, without even being a Halo fan, it's like, this is freaking so generic and boring and bland and whatever. And you watch movies like this and you're like, you are so immersed in their world. Their world feels so real. It's just,
and I'll tell you why. Carpenter walked through all of this. So Carpenter, as the director, as the guy making this movie, got to walk through all of this. He got to look at everything. He got to add his little take to it. He got to say yes, no, whatever. When you're dealing with green screen, when you're dealing with CGI, when you're dealing with the new sets that are like 360-degree LCD, blah, 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 whatever they are, you cannot walk through there and physically touch something or look at something and go, that's perfect. You've got to rely on whatever your computer-generated geekdom behind you is putting in there and making. So nothing's tangible. Nothing's there. Sure. Nothing's there to hold. Nothing's there to touch. Whereas back here, Carpenter could walk through this and go, yeah, this scares the shit out of me. This makes me uncomfortable.
And every mistake that you make now with the CGI stuff costs you so much money to fix. Whereas back then, it's like, listen, we need some spray paint here. We need some more snow here. We need some foam. I need more blood. It's just, everything is just so much more tangible. I don't know. Anyway, so this is basically the big finale where they this is the Blair thing. It finally is attacking, so it attacks Cap, and then it continues until it basically can't kind of hide itself before it reveals itself to MacReady. And that's kind of where we're moving towards, the big climatic explosion and all that. So this is the version that kind of comes at the very end where you sort of get it, where it's like, it's basically the master thing. Blair is like the final version where it's got like little pieces of all of it. And it kind of reveals like, this is sort of like the thing prime, the creature that's trying to survive the spaceship or whatever, and it reveals itself. And you get the only time you get the one where it's sort of like elements of the different beings that it encompassed. It's just, look at the detail again. Wet. Rob Bottin, man. Rob Bottin, freaking boss. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Hollywood Universal Studios in Florida.
I have not.
They have
about 20 years ago.
Do you remember the makeup show? Did you go to the makeup show?
Nope, we didn't do that.
There's a makeup show, and they had the heads from American Werewolf of London, and it shows the mechanics of the the jaw and stuff expanding during the transformation and all that. But all these they would rotate through different props. They would rotate through, and some of the stuff would make it in and out of the show. So yeah, that's how I learned a lot about who some of these geniuses were. Like, okay, wait a minute, who else worked for Rick Baker? What do you mean Rick Baker helped on Star Wars? Well, what do you mean this guy did this? Because these guys didn't treat each other like the enemy, right? So if Rick Baker is working on American Werewolf in London and Rob Bottin is working on The Howling, even though they basically are in competition with one another, they would help one another. They didn't look at it as a way of going, oh no, you can't help that guy. It's so much more amicable than it is now, right? And I don't know all of the players to know what their relationships were. I don't know if Stan Winston was that way or whatever, but reality was, as a community, as a group of coworkers, because they'd work with each other, they'd get each other jobs, they would trust, so it was a different type of environment that really brought to life this late 70s, 80s special effects sort of renaissance, in my opinion. So that's how it plays out. Childs reappears at the very end. He had disappeared at one point, which was kind of weird because it just kind of it doesn't fit the story in a lot of ways because it just felt awkward that he just kind of disappears. But then he shows back at the end because it's basically to give you some last second tension, like is he infected or not? And then basically they can't survive now. They've destroyed the base. So reality is they know they're both going to die, and they basically decide that they're going to have some Jim Beam, and that's it. That's how this ends. A nice Hollywood ending without a storybook. My perfect way, in my opinion, to end most stories without any resolution. Let the audience figure it out on their own.
Well, one of the things that you always got, even in the 51 thing, a bunch of the old sci-fi movies, humanity always wins. We always win. But then you get some movies where it's like, no, we don't always win. And those are the movies that really make you take a look and take stock of, there's a bunch of crazy shit out there, obviously. We're not always going to win. Humanity is not some super species that always defies the odds and wins. And we don't. In this instance, we do not win. They're going to go in search of this outpost. They're gonna find both of McCready and Childs. They're gonna do an autopsy. Someone's going to become infected. The world's going to get taken over by this thing, or at least there's going to be a giant war. Something.
Cycle. Yeah.
Yes. Daryl don't always win.
Daryl says through and through the acting was absolutely amazing by everyone. It really, really is. And these are a lot of these actors really have long resumes and bodies of work. It's just really, really interesting. So.
And that was one thing I found when I was, you asked me earlier about the different critics I'd gone through and looked at and read. One thing that they never said was that the acting wasn't good. They said the actors are good. The actors did their jobs. Multiple critics though couldn't tell who was who. So it was like they talk about the special effects and the acting, especially from Kurt Russell. And one of the direct comments was, it's like having Vincent Van Gogh repaint a crosswalk with the special effects. You've got someone doing the special effects and the actors doing the acting, and it's like pointless. It's worthless. It was for nothing. I don't agree with that at all because I love this movie, but
on Loki, your channel, you kind of like pose that question. If you only had to pick 2 John Carpenter films, and it's this one. This one and Halloween are for me because they both are these massively influential films to their genre. And I'm not going to take away how much I love, Big Trouble in Little China, obviously the Escape films, and we can just keep going, right? I joke with somebody, I think it was Snowdub, we should just do a top 10 John Carpenter breakdown, just like try to rank all these John Carpenter films. But the blood and guts special effects stuff was kind of new, like what Carpenter did with Halloween, what gave us a slasher film genre, basically. What happened with practical effects. And it started a lot with Alien, because obviously this film probably wouldn't even gotten made had it not been for Alien. But obviously there's a different sort of element to the blood and whatever and all that kind of stuff in this film that's not in a lot of other films. This is where the genre kind of takes a major change, major turn. Let's see. Stan Winston. Hey, Gap Stargate and Stan Winston, and get some uncredited work. I don't know if Stan did any work on this or not, but I know that Stan is huge in this on genre, whatever. So, Gap says he did do some. I don't know. I didn't catch any references to Stan in reading and covering some of the kind of stuff. So, Gantz and Berserk were some of my no happy ending shows. Okay. There's one for Loki. Chris says this movie would have had a different ending had Jeff Goldblum been cast as McCready, because life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
That's a great. That's something there. Got to give something to Chris. Here you go, Chris. That was good. Soul Assassin's mentioning The Fog. Yeah, that's a great Carpenter film. Underrated Carpenter film. So go ahead, Ironcaster.
Oh, I was going to ask. Putting aside, out of curiosity, how do you guys view the end of the movie? What's your stance on the ending? Is Childs infected?
Oh no, I think I agree 100% with Loki in the video game sequel, and that Childs is definitely infected. He wandered off on his own. There's no way he's not infected. It doesn't make any sense. He has to be infected. Yeah.
See, I don't know. Maybe it's the eternal optimist, but I like to think that they're both safe. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. They're in the middle of the Antarctic with no signs of any support coming.
True.
They are trapped.
No, they're going to die. There's no way to survive. I was there in Antarctica. It's going to be, you know, I think what did they say earlier in the film? It's going to be negative 100 something degrees or whatever in an hour or whatever. So yeah, it's yeah, they're doomed for death. But you know how it all plays out is another thing. So yeah, it's good stuff. Any other thoughts on sort of like the overreaching legacy of the film, in your opinion, guys?
It definitely shows that you can put your heart and soul into something. Critics will absolutely piss all over it, but the fans, the people that love this movie, that kept this movie alive and done more than that, they have shared it so much and told people to watch it so many times that eventually it comes to the point where it's beyond a cult classic. It is past cult classic following. It is now it's a financial success for Carpenter. It might not have been in the theater, but this is those times where it didn't matter. The theater didn't matter. It didn't matter if it came out on 157 screens. It was the millions and millions of screens that it went on at home that people said, no, we love this movie. We want to see more of this movie.
Yeah, because when you fast forward to like the video store phenomenon, so guys, if you don't know much about this era, once you got to 83, 84, 85, video store rentals, VHS was just a massive thing. Like it was a huge deal. So you would have John Carpenter marathon, right? Basically, it would be, you know, Halloween, Fog. It would be this. You kind of keep going. The Escape films came out around this era as well. Big Trouble in Little China as well. So you end up with this VHS sort of like, and you just, you know, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but back in that era, if you guys are old enough in chat to remember this, you know, you would go. Usually the deals were you could get 4 to 6 for the whole weekend. Like that was the way to, you know, take advantage of the VHS rental stores in that era. Was you had to get 4 to 6 you'd go home with like a stack. Yeah, that was the way to most be economical. It was crazy. So, Escape from New York was good. Escape from New York was great. I love that movie. Soul Assassin prefers to leave who's infected as a mystery. Dark Horses, the Thing's comics kind of confirmed the story well, didn't they? I didn't read those. Loki, Ironcaster, you guys know much about the comic? I don't know much about the comic, actually.
I believe they do also imply that Childs is infected.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That seems to be the popular theory. It's always going to be Childs. It'll never be McCreary.
Soul Assassin says the critics shouldn't be taken seriously. Well, listen, there's a couple of critics, maybe one, that you might want to take seriously. I'm not compromising. I keep getting invited back to some screenings. So anyway, yeah. So no, listen, this is a classic for me. I love this film. I loved revisiting it with you guys. I can't believe it's 40 years. Then I look at my head and I go, yep, it's been at least 40 years. There's not much hair left up there. So yeah, it's been a minute. And I didn't see this in the theater. I gotta be honest. That's would have been too much. But yeah, what a great film to revisit, and a great director, great special effects, great cast. I don't even know where to, you know, like I said, the nitpicking for something like this is so small and insignificant. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. But I would say that if I had to justify anything with the critics and why they did, it's because of the blood and the special effects and that approach. It was very new when this was coming out. That's really probably a little bit of it. By the time you get to like Nightmare and you got like the blood waterfall to the ceiling when Johnny Depp's character gets killed, no one cared at that point. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna do blood everywhere. And you have to understand too, when you start doing you get past like, you know, the Freddy, Jason stuff into there were so many knockoff slasher films, the blood, the boobs, the violence, it was all over the map, man. It was chaos broke out. So 82 is part of that for sure. So Stephen Ransom is confirming some of my VHS theories here. So let's see. He says VHS age was crazy. We were all captivated by the idea of watching and pausing whatever we wanted. Younglings can't understand how amazing that was. Yeah, man. I had an uncle who had been in Korea, so he had a Betamax VHS, a Betamax player before you could get VHS economically. Like here, they were still like $500 to $1,000 for a VHS player. He came back with this beta thing, and he had like I mean, there was like 200, like 3 to 4 movies per tape. There's like 100 tapes, right? So this was like, I was like, whatever I could do to get permission to spend the night at my aunt and uncle's house. And I probably stayed up every night that I was allowed to be there from 2 to 3 a.m. This was literally why I probably had good grades. I'm perfectly honest with you. From middle school into high school, part of what kept me as a good student was the privileges that I would get. If I could get things like that, I was like, okay, fine. I'll work towards straight A's if I can do that, because that was literally it. I would outlive everyone and could stay up all night, 2, 3 in the morning. And as long as I didn't complain, rinse and repeat. I remember visiting my dad when I was a teenager and going to the video store. We'd literally get 4 movies at a time and we'd watch them all like 8 hours. So we start, dinner time, take a break, watch another one, take another break. It'd be up till like 2 in the morning. All right, take them all back and gets 4 more. Yeah, VHS, man. Oh, what an era! What an era. So,
a lot of good memories.
Yes. So, and with that, I thought I would share something with you guys. So, anything else going on about the thing, or anything else you guys want to talk about? Look, I really appreciate you guys really hammering into stuff. I feel like watching your show the other day with Mim was like a prequel to our show. Like I was like, oh, this is great. It's like a teaser. Like I get Thing on an Xbox. I'm getting more Thing, and the more Thing I get, the better. I gotta be. I told
him like the night before we did the show, and he was like, "Well, you're gonna have video and you're gonna have pictures," and I said, "No, it's not that kind of conversation. We're just gonna talk about the way the critics treated it compared to the way we treat it now. That's what I want to talk about, because that is a very rare thing. And when you hear stuff come out of people like, oh, well, that one day The Last Jedi will be heralded as one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time. It's just people don't like now. There is a huge difference between the way that movie has been treated and the money that movie made compared to The Thing.
And the critique, right? So the critique,
that's right,
is like my critique. So I've been very transparent about Last Jedi. Like I did not pan Last Jedi properly because I came out of the film very shell shocked. Like what the heck did I just see? And as I've spent more time thinking about it, then once I watched it the second time after my screening was when I was like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. How are they going to fix this? How are they going to fix that? And again, I got to be honest, man. I was naive. I was like, these people have to have a plan. They spent $1 billion freaking dollars. Now,
it's that way we all felt. Pops.
Right. The critics of Last Jedi, or the critiques of Last Jedi, are more substantive, whereas the critiques of The Thing were more like technological, like of its time. None of those. So the criticisms would be more like if there was somebody who hated Star Wars because of the special effects were kind of cheesy or don't date well. That would just be kind of silly because well, let me give you a better example. People that hate on Psycho. And I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't understand what this guy accomplished. Like you weren't allowed to, this is the first film where you have a lady in a brassiere. They show a toilet on screen. We butcher a lead actress in the opening third of the film, and we showed blood on screen. He had to use chocolate syrup to make it look real. And then when she falls out of the bathtub, he had to fight the censors to prove that you couldn't see her anus. That's Psycho. Like it's just like you have to have some relevance because the critics hated Psycho. They couldn't stand it. They hated every element because he thumbed their nose at every step of the way with them. It's crazy to think about, right? And time will put it where it needs to go. I don't have an ounce of belief that Last Jedi has all of the sequels. Like they don't. Their legacy is going down, not up, whereas the prequels is going up, not down. It's very strange to me that the prequels are catching so much more fire now. Which at the time I was like, yeah, they're all right. And then I like Revenge of the Sith. I really did. I stand by that. I like watching Attack of the Clones. I just can't stand the romance part. I just skip those chapters. If I could get an edited version, that's what I would have. I just like, give me like 10 seconds of this shot or that shot, and I'm good. I don't need to have all of this, like him writing the terrible CGI thing, writing the creature. Oh, cut all that out. Cut it all out.
Using the Force to feed her an apple.
So stupid. Just waste of time. Just so dumb. So I wanted to get Steven Ransom. I had his comment. He did something for me, and I just want to give him a little kudos. So I was like, "This is my little motto, a little image headed in my July." Next week, we will have a show on Tuesday night, but then we'll have a week off for my birthday. So for the birthday treat, I got my Talk Hard Pops AC/DC high voltage homage photo. So Steven Ransom, your boss, man. Thank you so much. That's freaking great. I love it. Yeah. So next week we will probably have more of, I think more of like a media conversation, more about like where we're at with media content creation, who you believe, who you don't believe, integrity, what can we trust, and how do we even move forward? Like, how do we work through things going? And I think that'll probably be a little bit. I'm hoping to have another guest on with us, a special guest with us next week. So we'll see. A lot of kudos and thank yous from everyone. And then there's Stephen Ransom says movies that the critics did not like: Wizard of Oz and It's a Wonderful Life, Star Trek. Yeah, again, time and place. It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie, but you know how much Christmas is in that movie? Not a lot. So for critics at the time, just didn't get it. Just didn't click.
They also didn't like Miracle on 34th Street.
Correct. Yeah, they don't have hearts. Let's just be perfectly honest. I've been seeing these critics, so. Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, Chris Persia, thank you, man. Steven Ransom gets all of the freaking credit, man. Steven Ransom is a boss. It's freaking great. A lot of people just saying, giving me a thank you, great show, that kind of thing. So, what else is coming up? Obviously, I get to be on Loki's show tomorrow morning, so we will definitely rock your morning tomorrow at 8 Central, 9 Eastern time. You wake up to Pops and Loki talking about all sorts of crazy nonsense, I'm sure. Loki, what else you got going on this week? Any other streams lined up? Any guest appearances?
We've got a Dega Outlaw, me and a Dega Outlaw tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We've got Friday, which will be the Orville review that we've been doing and for the new episode. And then we've got our Friday night late night show with Mexican Iron Man. That is always a who the hell is going to show up? What the hell are we going to do? There never is a plan. It's all improv, last minute, no jumping into the pond head first without checking to see how deep the water is kind of stream. So you never know what's going to happen.
Awesomeness. That's great. Ironcaster, he's been back in the streaming pool. I'm loving Gundam. It's good stuff, man. Awesome. It's Ironcaster as Ironcaster is my favorite. I just love who he really is, man. It's deep. Love it.
It's always a lot of fun. Just kind of one of my favorite things, showing people new shows, giving them something they might not have seen before and kind of getting those initial reactions. I mean, come on, you got to tell me you're not going to go after this stream and watch people reacting to the thing for the first time. I'm going to.
That'd be great. And you're on with, by the way, you have a great show that you do with Nick, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. The comic book stuff that you guys do is a great show. I keep missing it live, and I'm going to reach out to Nick. We got to get him on here, talk hard with us, or do a news panel with us or something. Nick's so freaking great.
I'll bring a pizza.
Just bring the pizza. He'll just show up. The comic book stuff is freaking great, man. I love that stuff. That's right up my alley. I love all that. So
we did a month of shows just looking at bat suits.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. I was sitting there. You guys had your opinions, and I'm over there giving my thoughts. No, that's a horrible take, or that's fair enough. It was fun because nobody agrees. It's just great. I love it. So
I think that's the best part when you get people going back and forth. Like, no, this part of the suit's terrible. Like, no, this is the best part. It's like, no armor. Get the armor off the bat suit.
It's sort of like a thermometer of how much you're influenced by comic books versus movies and things like that. So pro armor people are usually movie only people. They have very little experience with the comic books. And those of us that are from the comic book world understand the armor should only be used for like very unique situations, like the Dark Knight Returns, where he has to fight Superman. It makes sense that he would have an armor. But other than that, this is not something he would do regularly. It's similar to using a gun, an actual gun. Right. Fine, that's a year or two. Yeah, he had a gun. There's a couple issues here and there, but that's not Batman. That's not what he does. But yeah, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time. So I have grand ambitions of doing some videos after this show, so I'll try to publish those. Maybe do one tonight. If not, I'll publish in the next couple of days. I have to finish watching some of these shows. Like, this has become a crazy time with creation. I have to bash shows that I'm sure will suck because I have not watched them yet. But I want to get to them because I don't want to try to avoid everyone's content. I'll be honest. I want to be able to watch it for myself and then give a reaction and then go see what everybody else had to say about it. So some of those shows are dropping. Orville drops tomorrow. Orville's tomorrow night. Yeah. So I'm up to date on Orville. Loving Orville. Really enjoyed Orville. Glad I got in. Good advice from those of you that helped me get in. So yeah, a lot of great stuff going on.
Now?
Sorry again?
How far are you now?
Oh, I'm caught up on Orville. I'm in real time.
Okay.
Yeah, I got in real time, just in time to watch the last one. So I just got caught up just in time. So last week is when I got in real time. I got to see episode 3, which I have to be honest, I hated episode 3. I thought episode 3 was one of the worst ones so far. As someone who's just binged all 29 of them or whatever there are, yeah, I didn't like that. That it was definitely among my least favorite episodes they've done to date. But see, the episode 1 though is freaking great. The Isaac one is freaking great. By the way, speaking of Isaac, a brief plug, because I will do a video on The Black Phone. I did my review on Black Phone. Loved Black Phone. Blumhouse did a great job. Ethan Hawke is fantastic. And by the way, this proves that these actors and these studios trying to complain about, oh, the helmet covers up their face and they can't act and whatever, screw them. Screw them. He has a mask on through the whole freaking thing. He changes masks, which mean things. And at the end, when the mask comes off, it means something. But it just shows how much someone who's talented can emote with just their eyes, head tilts, things like that. And that Orville episode with Isaac contemplating basically suicide. Oh, freaking. This is where talent lies, man. These people that hide like the Halo stuff and, Mandalorian stuff. You know what? Screw you people. Yep. Go pound sand. Just freaking garbage. Black Phone, though, high recommend. A lot of fun. Thriller. It's horror, but it's not. It's not slasher horror, and it's not like blood and guts for no reason horror. Like it's more like a 7. You know what I mean? More like that serial killer kind of film, but disturbing. Set in 1978. So for those of you that love the nostalgia stuff too, it's done really well. I have a lot less complaints about that film than I do most. They get a lot of that stuff right. Yeah, because Stranger Things kind of drives me crazy sometimes because they'll make reference to things that didn't exist in their time that they're slotted. I'm like, that didn't happen. That was later. That, like the season 4 of Stranger Things, there's a fist bump reference. We were not fist bumping in 1986. Sorry, guys. We were still high-fiving and low-fiving, and we had handshakes, but there were no fist bumping. Slow. Yeah, a lot of too slow, but there was no fist bumping back then. So, guys, it's been freaking great. It's went fast. We're like even ahead of schedule. So, and Loki, you seem like you're always doing something, yet you talk it down like you're never doing anything. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you got 5 days a week. You got your show tomorrow night. You got your show Friday night. That's like 7 hours of streaming plus mine. Yeah. So, it's a busy guy. You gotta check out Stone Loki. And then, of course, Ironcaster's on all sorts of things too. Yeah. Twig. You do Twig usually, right? You're on Twig. You're doing Nick Weiser's comic book stuff. I mean, yeah. So busy folk. Trying to stay busy, aren't we? Trying to do our thing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
folks,
it saves me money. I'm not spending money on gas.
That's for sure, man. Yeah. So listen, guys. Have a good week. Be blessed. Make tomorrow better than today. And if nothing else, go out in the world and talk hard. Right. We'll do this again next week.
Yeah. Right? And I'm not playing